जय जय गुणसागर जय जय गुणसागर गंभीरा जय गुणसागर कारण रहित दया सागर कृपा सागर जय जय गुणसागर गंभीरा जय गुणसागर गंभीरा जय गुणसागर गंभीरा जय गुणसागर
Hariom everyone. Can you hear me clearly? There is no choppiness in my voice or the video. Cool. Usually I have a parallel YouTube broadcast. I think the internet is choppy today and it is giving me some issues. Just wanted to make sure that there was no choppiness in this delivery at least. Glad. Today after 3 weeks of marathon, 3+ weeks of marathon, prep work for getting about 1200 students to the Balavihar. We had to train and bring several teachers, about 200 plus teachers, about 40 volunteers to support them, 40 or 50 of them, and finally launched the Balavihar for this year 2020-21. And it was a most gratifying feeling for one reason, that when collectively we come together, transcending our limitations and looking at a bigger picture to dedicate our resources, ourselves, our everything, the net result of it, you know, there need not be somebody that comes and pats your back. The delivery itself is such a satisfying, amazing feeling. I'm sure everybody who was a part of it felt the same, experienced the same, and it was the most beautiful experience. When I say beautiful, yes, there were some ups and downs, initial learning curve, which will be there. I was expecting it, but it's just that many kind-hearted, good-hearted, sincere people coming together to make it possible. The satisfaction of working with such sincerity is immediate and immeasurable. So that got launched. I thought sincerely that in February, when suddenly things had to be put on break, that, oh, good, Sarveshananda, you will have a good long haul of break. But this looks like one after the other, one after the other. In fact, this is my several of the today's meetings on Zoom. Wow. It, I think Gurudev has his own, Bhagwan has his own plan of how it should work. Well, whatever it is, if the end result is this satisfying, I think I'm up for it with plenty more. I don't know what that plenty more would be, but whatever it is, I think I'm ready, more than ready for it. Anyway, now coming to today's, let us start with 3 Ohms, Sahana Vavatu, Guru Brahma, and begin. But before I start, hope and pray that all of you, wherever you are in your living spaces, watching this, participating in this, are doing well and being safe. Okay, glad to note. Let us begin with 3 ohms. Sahana Vavatu and Guru Brahma. ॐ सहना ववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Last week we had started with that segment where Bhagwan Narad Ji is trying to explain, and the reason I say trying to explain is he himself says it that it is very difficult to explain. Anirvachaniyam, that which is inexplicable. That which is inexplicable, to put it in words, has its difficulty. So that's why I said he's trying. Why he's trying it good. So in that effort, we were in the 54th Sutra. We had not completed the entirety of that Sutra. So we'll be looking in through that Sutra again. The last few words. So we will see that today. So please try repeating it after me. Gunarahitam, Gunarahitam, Kamanarahitam, Kamanarahitam, Pratikshana Vardhamanam, Avichinnam, Avichinnam, Sukshmataram, सूक्ष्मतरम अनुभवरूपम अनुभवरूपम गुणरहितं कामनारहितं प्रतिक्षणवर्धमानम् अविच्छिन्नं सूक्ष्मतरम अनुभवरूपम. We had seen up until the pratikshana vardhamanam. Today we'll have to see in avichinnam. This love divine is a fulfillment unto itself. When I say fulfillment unto itself, it feeds off of itself. It is independent of the reasons because of. Wherever there is a reason because of which I like something or love something, it becomes a limitation in itself. How does it end up becoming a limitation in itself? Supposing I were to love because of, say, long hair. And you ask the poets, why did I pick long hair? The poets, काली सी क्या बोलते हैं, लहराती जुल्फें. You know, the long curly black hair of yours is so. Hair is also a reason for love. We should call it as not fair and lovely, hair and lovely. Hair becomes the reason. What if somebody reaches to my status, wherein it is deforested? No hair, no love. Because the reason for your love is gone, therefore the love is also gone. I like your teeth. Okay. Dentures, love gone again. I love your sweet voice. What if something had to happen to your voice, love again gone, disappeared? So is beauty. The youthfulness and beauty added to that youthfulness, that also is a limitation. Anything where I can sense, I can pinpoint, I can identify that this is the reason, then it becomes a limitation in itself. Vichinnam, it gets broken. And that which is broken cannot be truly recognized as love divine. Once Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he was worshipping Mother Kali in Dakshineshwar temple, which is where he would dedicate all his time and effort. While he had just concluded his puja, and he was walking back to the little room that they had given him to live in, for him and for Sharda Amma to live in. As he was walking by, there was this discussion that seemed to be happening between the Rani who was owning that Dakshineshwara area, saying that there was this temple and Bhagwan Krishna there, that Murti, for some reason there was a break in the flute or the mukuta or something. It had broken, and therefore they were thinking of reinstalling with a new pratima, new murti of Bhagwan. And Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, while walking, just hears it, and as though muttering to himself, as though saying it to himself, but a little louder than that, he ends up saying that if Rani's brother, she had a brother, if Rani's brother were to fall and break his arm, so should we replace him also? You're getting the point. That just because there is, it should not stop our fine attunement with that form, with that identity, because it should not be from the platform of because of. If ever our love starts with because of, understand that our very platform of love has begun with a wrong note. It will lead to many kinds of speed blocks, speed bumps, and it will throw us off. So vichinnam, that which can be broken. Avichinnam, that unbreaking, continuous form of connection with that divine. And how intense this connection should be. At the end of Goswami Tulsidas ji's Ramcharitmanas, he says one beautiful concept. Like how a Kami Purusha is thinking of his beloved or his craving, or as how a person who has a deep desire for wealth is constantly thinking of wealth. 100-fold more than that should be the intensity with which the devotee is constantly thinking of Bhagavan. For somebody who is dwelling deeply into wealth and finance, I have had to share my room with one such. So I have seen from close quarters. Everything and anything has to mean money for them. I'm not saying it is a good thing or a bad thing. The intensity with which they're involved in wealth is that every single moment, every single activity has to correlate with wealth. Even if there is something that they have to go, how much will it cost? How much would I make? How much time is spending? How much time would I be wasting? Or how much time should I, is it an investment or is it even time, even everything calculated from the standpoint of profit margin. If we had even 1/10 of that intensity of that fellow who would think of his money, I think Bhagavan, who wherever he is, he would appear right in front of us. But our intensity is, when do we think of Bhagavan? Truly, when do we think of Bhagavan? When everything is going hunky-dory. Ekdam, smooth sail. Do we really think of Bhagavan at that time? I'm not talking of prasada bhakti, or I'm not talking of an aupcharikata, an obligation to think of Bhagavan as a daily routine because of some mechanical rut that we have put in place. With intensity, when do we actually think of Bhagavan? Whenever we are in some drastic moments of trouble. Isn't that true? Whenever we are in trouble, we think of Bhagavan. Even those who say that they don't believe in such form, if something were to go wrong, what is the first thing that comes out as even a cuss word? Oh my God. Achha, you start thinking of God then again. So Kabir Das ji says it beautifully. दुख में सुमिरन सब करे, सुख में करे न कोई, जब सुख में भी सुमिरन सब करे, दुख काहे को होए. दुख में सुमिरन सब करे. See, the dialect used here is an apabhramsha, a modification of Hindi. It has become a little softer Hindi. So it is not smarana, but it is sumirana. Dukh mein sumiran sab kare. Everybody will think of Bhagavan in times of feeling cornered. The despondency is so high that we think of Bhagavan. And that too, after all the efforts and everything is done, when the results are yet to come, Supposing you have given your exam. Before exam, we will not think of him. During exam, we will not think of him. It is when tomorrow is the day when they are going to announce your results. That is when I'll go to Bhagwan. Bhagwan, I think this time also I must have really not paid attention. For this once, please, please, please get me across. I'll come back, and that fellow doesn't want to give right now. That also is a if clause. If I pass, I'll come back and give you 11 coconuts. Now Bhagwan is also thinking, what do I do with your coconuts, man? I own this whole world. This world is my own extension, and you're plucking 11 coconuts from there and giving it to me. What do I gain from it? Or even better, if my son graduates in flying colors, this is the parent thinking, I will send my son to Tirupati for his head to be shaven. You are the one demanding it, but you are pledging someone else's head. It brings down that Bhagwan down to just sheer brokering. That Bhagwan, you do this for me, I'll do this for you. It is no more a relationship of devotion. It is more of vyapara buddhi or business mind attitude. Vyanika buddhi. So here Kabir Das ji says, Dukh mein to sumiran sab kare. In dukha, everybody thinks of Bhagwan. Sukh mein kare na koi. In times of good fortune, we don't take time off to say, Bhagwan, thank you. You have provided, and therefore I have this beautiful, pleasant moment. Thank you. No, at that time, the claim is, I have put the effort, I have done all this to enjoy. If not me, who will enjoy, I have slogged through this. This whole thing is the result of my sweat and toil. I have spent it back-to-back days and nights to make this happen. This is mine. And in that which I am still trying to claim, if there is a little thoda gadbad, little variation here and there, done. Immediately, ayo, Bhagwan, 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 and we'll start running towards him. Sukh mein sumiran koi na kare. In Sukha, we think that everything is hunky-dory, it is my greatness, it is my grandeur, it is my effort, it is my resourcefulness. I have put the effort. For that also Kabir Das ji says, मैं karta bakra. Who says मैं? A goat. So who is an ahankari purusha is worse than a goat. Because the goat at least makes those sound when in danger or when in hunger. But an egotistical person is constantly मैं. So he says, I'll not compare this egoistic person even with a goat, because a goat will feel offended. But then he's not just censuring, he's even giving us a solution in the next line. He says, supposing Sukh mein sumiran sab kare. In great times of fortune, instead of claiming that which I have is all my greatness and grandeur, Go to Bhagavan. I tell you, there are certain traditions, certain things that which inadvertently the parents, when you grow in nice environment, these are subtle small things that they're inculcated in life. I used to remember when I was growing up, my father's salary would not be once in 15 days, but it was once a month. And it was not directly transferred to the bank. It was given, hard cash was given in hand. So he would bring that entire amount, and first thing, we would all take shower and sit in front of Bhagavan, light the lamp, and do the stuti, offer that entire thing at Bhagavan. And before he would hand anything to mom for taking care of the entire household, I mean, if he wanted also, he would have to go ask mom. She was the home minister. He was just the external affairs minister, where he would bring that money, give it to mom, and done. Mom used to also work, so she would also bring and put it in a pile. And from that chunk, the first amount taken would be put in a separate hundi kind of a thing right next to Bhagavan. And for what? Not for some vacation time that can be used, or for yatra time. Whenever we go to yatra, this is what will be offered in the bigger collection, that hundi, in that temple, as an offering. Anything brought in, whether it is fruits, whether it is sweets, whether it is whatever brought in, first thing is to bring it, offer it at Bhagavan's feet, and then distribute it as prasad. Small little details, that when in good fortune, first look at it as the blessings, the prasada of that Bhagavan. Sukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein sumiran jab kare, tab dukh kahe ko hoye. When the mind is constantly tuned towards that Bhagavan, there will be no moment that we can complain to say this is going to be painful. The attitude with which we look at that situation changes completely. Therefore, in the entire history, there was one woman, a brave one. When Bhagavan, standing sakshat in front of her, asks, "O Kunti Devi, what would you want as a boon?" She's the only one who had a very vichitra, different kind of a desire to be fulfilled, if you can put that as a desire or a request. She said, "Bhagavan, please bless me with a life filled with miserable moments." She was not crazy up here, okay? You might think raising 5 kids of that nature, she might have gone crazy. And the politics of Hastinapura might have made her crazy, so she asked like this. She was very clear. Whenever in my life, Bhagavan, I have seen atrocities, miseries, miserable moments, my mind automatically tunes unto your feet. You may not be there present, but somehow your grace reaches us. And I have seen that my mind is able to turn and tune towards you faster, with more intensity of reach. That I don't find during the good times. So if you have to give me something or bless me with something, Bless me with these miserable moments so that my mind is constantly thinking of you and dedicating to your feet. Dukkha can be a good trigger. See, in our Shastra Paribhasha, we don't define sin or Papa or Punya is not to be defined as sin or a merit according to what we see in the Abrahamic connection. What is a sin? Sin is that where the mind loses its balance and feels constant rupture of agitation, friction of agitation. That is called sin. Having dukkha is not to be seen as a sin or effect of sin. Dukkha is more like an uncomfortable situation through which your body, mind, and intellect is going through. Using that moment, one can either choose to grow or choose to fail. Have you ever been to a gym? Exercise. When you lift those weights, not for a casual visit wherein you just lifted once, bas theek hai. Not for a casual visit, a rigorous exercise pattern. So you what do you call bench press? You have certain weights and then you're lifting it up, and you have done that about a round of 15 lifts, and as you are putting it back in its clamp, you see your muscles in different places where you never thought there would be a muscle or a joint. It starts not just hurting but throbbingly hurting. What have you done? You have put that dukkha of that weight on the body. It is not a comfortable thing, but that dukkha was necessary so that I can build a better format of health. Does anybody practice jogging, running? I prefer going out and running. I find it so useless to stand in one place and doing nothing. Like, I call that as a hamster syndrome. Treadmill is a hamster syndrome. You're running and running and running, reaching nowhere. Gaining not even fresh air. I would rather prefer go out and run. I mean, you're running. You are, your lungs are heaving for more air, and you're still pushing that final turn, final lap. And as you come to a halt, you're heaving, your heart is pounding, your muscles are all like throbbing. You can see that, you can feel that. Those who are addicted to exercise, they wait for that moment to happen. Now I feel good. Why? Now I put this body through that kind of a pressure so that it can achieve a better health. Similarly, dukkha is not a bad situation. In fact, what should be our prayer when there is dukkha? Bhagavan, I know you have given this moment of extreme sorrow and misery. Give me the ability, stability to go through this so that I come to the other side of this experience a better me. I am not standing in front of you requesting you to remove this dukkha, but give me the capacity to go through it. When I was reading the books on Jyotish Shastra, there are Navagrahas, 9 planetary objects. And those Navagrahas, there are Navagraha Stuti, Navagraha Shanti, Navagraha Homam, and things like that. It is not meant for removing the existing trouble, but invoking each one of these graha and their bala, so that strengthening my mind, I can go through these moments in a more efficient manner. Going through is inevitable. But coming out through that experience, whether I am a better person or a bitter person, I have to decide. So when we invoke that strength, it is from that standpoint, from that attitude that, oh Bhagavan, give me the strength to get across so that I am a better version of me. So that I am more of a subtler thinker, subtler believer, subtler person who can truly attune with yourself. Give me that capacity. There is an old Hindi song. हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मन विजय करे, दूसरों के जय से पहले खुद को जय करे. A very beautiful song. Bhagwan, I don't ask you to remove these obstacles or dukkha in my life. Give my mind the capacity to go through it. Man ko shakti dena. So that I can win over this lower aspect of my mind. Mana vijay kare. Before I can think of launching myself to win the outside world, give me the capacity to win over myself. Khud pe jay kare. Such a beautiful song. So the attitude with which we even approach that Bhagavan is not from an attitude of fear. That is the transition that I find even in Rudram when you chant. This fellow is all in the first Anuvaka, he goes, Bhagavan, 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 please, 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 please. Then he sees Bhagavan. And he's like, Bhagavan, don't. He's scared of whatever he has done in life. He runs to Bhagavan Rudra. How is he seeing Bhagavan? Bhagavan has outstretched arms holding a bow in his hand and pulled the string, Akarna Dirga, that the string all the way to the ear. Why only to the ear? Beyond which your hand doesn't extend. So Akarna. So he has extended it with full potential of that bow. And he's thinking, Bhagavan, are you going to shoot me with this? I know I have done foolish things, stupid things. Please don't shoot. And then he realizes, oh, Bhagavan, this is not aimed at me. And then he turns around. You have picked this to protect me. Thank you. And then he starts praising for having been protected. See, no dukkha can be seen or should be seen as his punishment. Bhagavan is not playing Chuck E. Cheese, that whack-a-mole kind of a game. As it pops up, who should I whack today? Bhagavan is not searching. That cannot be the definition of Bhagavan. Rudra means what? Rodayati. Not understanding his benevolence, we cry foul saying that Bhagavan, you are giving me this dukkha. But that dukkha, very dukkha is given so that, I learn how to angle myself, to sharpen myself through those rough patches of life. That is up to me. So therefore, dukh mein sumiran is the best way to start. So he says, सुख में सुमिरन सब कर जब करे तब दुख काहे को होए. Even when there is dukkha, what is the attitude with which we see that dukkha is no more dukkha? It is seen as a moment where Bhagavan is throwing a challenge for me to become more alert, become more capable. So in and through every walk of life, what is the attitude then? Every experience is the prasad of that Bhagavan alone. However difficult the situation be. Now, supposing you have learnt a very good skill in playing, say basketball or baseball or whichever game. Okay, what kind of an opponent do you want? A 5-year-old who is like 1/3 your size, barely can hold that ball, and then you dribble across that fellow and feel, then you dunk the ball and they say, yeah. You would yourself look at yourself and say, chi. When you want to play, what kind of an opponent do you need? Somebody who challenges you, somebody who can outsmart you. Now that challenge is so inviting that you want to outsmart the challenge. So is life. When you see those challenges, your attitude should be, come on, bring it on. Let me take it head on. Not like sulkingly, Bhagwan, why did you give me this? Why me again? Why? Bhagwan will say, yeah, when will you grow, beta? This opportunity is given, this opportunity is coming so that you get a good glimpse of how growth should be. So in whatever walk of life, whatever experience is bringing, my direct first connection, avichinna, is with Bhagavan. And that has to become sukshmati sukshmataram. Subtle in every way as I progress. What is the subtlest? In our scriptural understanding, subtlety is explained from the standpoint of pervasiveness. Earth has certain pervasiveness. The block of wood, block of earth, you put, it has certain dimension. That is its pervasiveness. Water goes from higher to lower. That is its pervasiveness. Fire, it goes this direction and this direction also. Pervasiveness. Air pervades even where the source cannot go. You light a agarbatti in one corner. By the time I am done with my puja, I go downstairs. Swamiji, you did puja? I said, how do you know? Downstairs in the kitchen, they will know that I have done puja because agarbatti smell has gone. Pervasive. Space is that which allows all this to pervade in. Therefore, the most pervasive. Vyapakatvat sukshmam. That which gives us the a gist of its pervasiveness, tells us how subtle it is. Sukshmataram. This avichinna bhava has to be sukshma. Sukshma meaning what? When we read through scriptures, what is the scripture telling us? That there is some Bhagavan somewhere and he has created you, me, and this world. Is that how our scripture has given this? No. What is it saying? Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam. The very first shloka we teach in our Balavihar. Akhanda mandalakaram, that unbroken, unfragmented, homogeneous mass of happiness. Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam, that which is the substratum pervading through all that which is chara achara, that which is animate and inanimate, that which is mobile and that which is immobile, chara achara. Who is it that is expressing through any one of these expressions? Is that Paramatma alone. Guruji puts it beautifully. He says, the way to look at it is not this God versus that God or that God versus this God, which God is greater. No. My God is great. No. In fact, he says, our scriptures say it very clearly. God alone is. Anything other than that is called mithya, is called an illusion. Why? We have not defined and limited Bhagavan to one particular form or one particular entity. The very understanding of Paramatma is Sat Swarupam. Sat meaning what? The very existence. Meaning anything other than that existence, what is it? Asat. Asat meaning non-existential. Ho hi nahi sakta. Other than it, there is no validity of its being. God alone is the statement. If God alone is the statement, what does it mean then? How do I look at it? In and through, whether it is a pen, whether it is a cell phone or a paper or a book or a person or anything that I'm interacting with. What am I interacting with? Is the very expression of that Paramatma. Therefore, when there is a book and our foot by mistake touches it, traditionally, what does our culture imbibe in us? Immediately. Why? Not because Saraswati Devi will turn around, come up and say, you murkha. No. It is from the attitude that even that piece of paper is the expression of that Paramatma alone. Where is it that that Paramatma is not? Once that person has evolved to this stage, for them, they don't need an altar, they don't need a temple, they don't need a particular place of worship. Not that they will go criticizing it. They're not limited by it. Until we reach there, we need that anchor point. Having reached there, they don't need an anchor anymore. Why? Yadyat karomi tattad akhilam Shambho tava aradhanam eva. Wherever I am, whatever I am doing, it is nothing but an act of devotion, an act of worship at your feet alone. That I am seeing that Bhagavan in and everything, and my interaction with everything, every being around is a worship of that Paramatma alone. There are so many times, so many of our senior Swamis who have seen Gurudev have stated that when Gurudev used to come to a new place, he would say, "Where is my puja thali?" So those who know Puja Gurudev, he used to not have an altar kind of a thing that he would carry. But those who knew him knew what he was asking. And they would say, it is already set on the table. What was it? Paper, pen, ink, envelope, stamps, notebooks. I have had the opportunity to serve after dinner. This was in 89, 90. Press his feet. By then, his health had deteriorated quite a bit. Press his feet, and then he would say, if you want, you can go take rest. Those who were attending to him, he would say, you go take rest. At that time, I was like, no, Swamiji, I'll be standing here. And then he would take a pen and start for next 3.5, 4 hours, straight up, without lifting his head, continuously writing. And the most amazing thing, not a single scratch, scribble, cut. And that would be the original script as is. No need to edit it. We all read the Chinmaya pledge, right? We stand as one family, bound to each other with love and respect. It seems in Kerala, when somebody brought up this idea, Gurudev liked it immediately that there should be a Chinmaya mission pledge. So he said, give me 2 minutes. So he closed his eyes, leaned back on the chair, and while he was still closing his eyes, are you ready? Hey, are you ready to take notes? And he dictated it. We chant it as is even today. If anything has to be compared between Gurudev and Guruji, that would be one thing. I've seen Guruji also compose poetry in Sanskritam or in Hindi. Usually in Sanskritam, I would take that as an example, because when you write it in the meter, you need at least 2-3 revisions before it falls in the meter. With Guruji, it is like single take. He says it and it falls in the meter. And it's to say that letter writing itself is my worship to that Narayana that I am serving in these different forms. Therefore, in his words, he would say, if you ever have had received a mail, a letter from Gurudev, he would say, Namo Narayana, 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 Hari Om, salutations, prostrations. And then he would start. His explanation is, to that Narayana who has asked this question, this answer of mine is my seva, is my worship unto that Narayana. When he sat on that stage and roared like a lion, it was not from an audacity that I know you don't, so therefore you dumb fellows sit and listen. That was not the attitude ever. It was like, these many Narayanas walking, talking have arrived. This is my opportunity to provide the sanctity, the sacredness of this knowledge. Here is my seva to that Narayana who has come to listen to me. And when people said, oh, Swamiji, this knowledge has to be given only to such, I said, Narayana doesn't know such difference. Men, women, caste, creed, gender, nationality, nothing matters. If you have a sane head on your shoulder, come sit. If you don't, then there is a different institution for such. Please go admit yourself there. Otherwise, this is meant for anybody who wants to evolve in life. And he would offer that. See, the pervasiveness of it, the reach of it, does not hold back any kind of limitation. The service is to reach out to all kinds, every possible way. I don't know when it became suddenly about Gurudev, but whenever it became, the whole example went into that trail, one after the other, one after the other. I just realized that I kept on speaking on Gurudev when I started about Sukshmataram. That attitude of subtlety to see Narayana, see that Bhagavan in and through everything that I'm doing. Therefore, even in our scriptures, when the teacher addresses the student, it is not from, like, I have not come across where the teacher has called upon a student as Mandamati, Murkha Shiromani, Murkhottama. No. He Saumya, He Atma Swarupa, He Bhauma. And these are all endearing words saying you are nothing less than that Paramatma Tattva, that Paramatma alone that you are. So therefore, the very attitude towards everything becomes worshipful. That is the Sukshma Bhava, Sukshmataram. Therefore, everything becomes worship worthy. Every act becomes a worship in itself. Sukshmataram Anubhava Rupam. Wherever the word Anu is used, Anu means smaller than the smallest, closer than the closest. Anu. Bhava means to be. Anubhava is a direct, immediate experience without the mediation of any other corruptive agency. Supposing I take away my glasses, I can vaguely see your faces. The participant list is like a smear. Cannot read what it says. What has happened about my experience? It has been corrupted for the absence of this on my nose bridge. Supposing I have hard to hear. Sometimes functioning with these kids growing up here, they speak nasally. And the top of that, they have an accent. And the speed with which they have their nasally accent, not a single word. I feel like I have reached my 80s or 90s, wherein for every single word I what? What did you say? Can you repeat? It is frustrating. And I very shamelessly say, my English, please. I stopped excusing myself. No, it is your bad because you are speaking in your English, which is American. Please speak in my English. Supposing you have hard to hear. Your Anubhava is hampered because of the instrument. Anubhava means what? A direct experience without any mediation, immediate. Anubhava. The best way to understand this is when my hunger is satiated, how do you know? You might say, मेरा पेट है मुझे मालूम है. My stomach, I know it. Who else will know? But your stomach, how did you realize? Because there is, like, the water kettle has a marker, max 100 ounces, 1000 ounce. Then they have mark, and there is a transparent strip. You can see the water level. So if you pull the, like, Hanumanji opened the chest, you pull your gut and see, and there is a marker somewhere to say that your stomach is full, half full. No. How do you know that your stomach is full then? At a very gross level, it is a very subjective experience. Similarly, this is an immediate experience. A good marker for it is I am not trying to become something to have this experience. The moment I become, it is called Bhava Sagara. Sagara means as many ripples and waves that can occur in the ocean, that many I become. There's no more becoming. It is just in a state of being. If this marker be understood, very intense statement. There is no becoming, only being. How do you know? Knowing is being. Without becoming. हाँ, मुझे समझा. I understood. The moment you become the knower, you become something. So it is an intellectual processing. We are not talking about it. Even that intellectual processing, something is aware of it, that I am being that. Anubhava Rupam. That when I establish in itself, that is what prema takes me to, that love divine takes me towards. Where do I find that immense amount of undying satisfaction? It is because that which is my true nature, without becoming anything else, I am now abiding in it. See, up until the step of knowing, many of us can come up until that point. Because you keep your intellect open and available, you can reach to that point of knowing. But to transition from knowing to being, all the becoming has to be dropped. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. All of the becoming has to be dropped. And in that one state of being, I have to abide in it. That is where many of us, sincere seekers, completely get. It is like not even that you have applied a brake. It is the wheels have jammed. Where do I go? I don't know. There is no movement. Frustrating. Why? Because you are still trying to use the intellect to have the transition, to drop all of that. There is no becoming anymore. It's only being. Therefore, to explain this is anirvachaniya. Beyond words can explain. There are few more in the same line to understand what this anubhava is. We'll continue that next week. Until then, please be safe. Look forward to meeting all of you again next week. Let's conclude with the Shanti Patha. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanta Shanta Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all. Be safe. See you soon again. Hari Om.